Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. I am so glad to see you. If you can hear my fan at the moment, I'm really sorry. I will not be turning it off. Here in the UK, we are currently experiencing a heat wave. It is one of the hottest Junes to have graced us in the last couple of years, and it is so hot right now. I actually can't even tell you how warm it's been. And like, we're not built for this kind of heat. I grew up in a very hot country. I grew up in South Africa, and even I find this quite stifling because our houses are just saunas. They're so hot because they're built to keep warmth in. But anyway, so the original plan for this video was actually to do something very different. I've got this sketchbook that I've been working in for the past couple of months, and it's not a very good sketchbook, I can't lie. It is an old school sketchbook, so it actually has a lot of old drawings and pieces in it from like 6 years ago, which is kind of crazy. And my initial plan was to kind of do an opening spread, like a welcome to sketchbook 1 kind of vibe, because this is the first ever sketchbook that I've actually committed to, which is crazy because I've been doing art like my whole life, but I've just never committed to a sketchbook before. But because of the heat, my paints are just drying really quickly. I did a piece in my sketchbook yesterday in gouache and it was okay. I did manage it. I think gouache is easier to work with in heat than acrylic. I'm undecided whether I'm going to do gouache or acrylic for the opening spread. So I decided it's just going to be a little bit more of a chill sketchbook and yap kind of session. It'll give you guys a chance to see what my art is like, considering my last video was a tour of my A-level work, which is over 2 years ago now. My art style and the art that I enjoy making has developed quite a bit since. So yeah, let's get straight into it. In the introduction of this video, you may have realised that I said that this is the very first sketchbook that I've really ever committed to as an artist. Now, you might be thinking that this is completely contrary to the fact that last week I posted my first ever video on this here YouTube channel, and that was a sketchbook tour of my A-level art. And my excuse for this is that A-level art, especially the sketchbooks, to me, they weren't real sketchbooks. They weren't places where we were encouraged to experiment and try new things, try new materials, and really, find our styles as artists. They were for the exhibition of our work. They were for our final projects. They were part of our final projects, which means that we had no real freedom in what we actually did in them. They were very controlled by our art teachers, to the point where it didn't actually feel like any fun. It felt like homework, if that makes sense. But then when I started getting into art in February of this year, 2026, which was about 5 or 6, maybe a bit less, like 4 or 5 months ago, I started feeling this random creative itch, and I grabbed literally the first sketchbook I could find, which is this one over here, which is actually an old school sketchbook, hence why the quality is not the best, but it does its job. And I just randomly started drawing in it. I remember my very first page, I drew horses. I don't know what it was about horses that really intrigued me, but I had so much fun, like so much believable joy filling in this sketchbook spread. And even though the first horse I drew was very janky because I haven't actually committed to drawing anything in the last 2 years, I still felt that sense of joy that I hadn't felt for art in so many years' time. I can't even remember the last time I felt joy doing art. It has now been quite a few months since that initial love and obsession with art, and I'm gonna be so honest, I was so scared for the longest time that this was just gonna be a 2-week obsession, a 2-week experimentation, and I would get back into art and all of a sudden I would lose all of my progress and I would fall back out of love with it. And even the fact that I was so scared that I would fall back out of love with it, I think should have been a sign to me that actually the opposite was true. It has now been quite a few months since I started actually committing to the sketchbook, and even though there have been a few dodgy pages here and there, I'm still having so much fun with art. Like, you'll see in a moment, I actually start pulling out some markers that I got. They are not sponsored, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be a dream? But essentially, when I was getting back into it, I thought, let me actually invest in this hobby of mine, in this interest of mine, and I got some Ohuhu water-based markers because they are really affordable and low-key really fun to work with. I've never used alcohol markers. I would love to try them one day, but these were a really good alternative for the budget that I had and the experience that I had in terms of creating art. Okay, so now that I've gone on that little tangent, let's talk about what inspired the very specific spread that we're doing today. Because you might think that, like, Kaylin, this is a very specific thing that you're doing. So the first thing I'd like to say is that this is not an original idea at all. There is a YouTuber that I follow whose art style I just am absolutely in love with. Their name is Lolly37, I think. I might be wrong. I'll probably put their channel up if I can find it. And they, a couple of weeks ago, also did something very similar with like fish tins. And a couple of days ago, I was actually so randomly reading a poem. The poem is The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. And because we were having such a heat wave, I think it was just kind of a subconscious messaging in my brain telling me that I had to do something nautical, something sea based. So after painting some fish on the previous page, the immediate next reaction was fish tins, but fun fish tins, because I hadn't realised how many cool sardine tins there are in the world. Like, the colours are amazing, which very much inspired me to pick up my markers, which I haven't actually done in quite a while, and I'm very glad that they did, because I think this spread is probably one of the best spreads in my entire sketchbook, guys. I'm not even kidding you. It looks so good at the end, and I know we're starting just on the very first tin here, but trust me, it gets really, really good. And I'm not even just talking about the tins, I'm talking about the other motifs and decals that I end up using, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Here is a fun little behind the scenes of the video that you're currently watching. When I first put all of the clips that I'd gotten into my editor app, I used DaVinci Resolve. It came out to about an hour and a half worth of content, and for a moment I literally just had to sit there and think, oh my gosh, how on earth am I supposed to take down an hour and a half worth of art content? But as you can see, I've managed to take it down to at least half an hour, so I think that's slightly more manageable. But then I came to a second roadblock where I kind of realised, like, oh, this is my first video where I'm actively going to be doing a voiceover, and I don't really know what I'm gonna say. So I thought I'm just gonna do the classic new YouTuber thing and kind of just introduce myself to you guys, because this is only my second ever video, but I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to introduce myself and kind of let you guys know who I am and what I'm interested in, because all you know at the moment is that I'm British and I had art burnout, and that is definitely not the most interesting thing about me. So with all of that, let's just jump straight into it, I guess. So I am 20 years old. I'm turning 21 in literally like 3 weeks, which is kind of crazy. Like, I'm actually really, really excited for this birthday in particular. Not because it's any big tradition in my family, not because I'm having a big celebration, but because 21 here in the UK means that your minimum wage goes up. And I work at a restaurant in my hometown. We'll talk about that later. I work at a restaurant and I do get really well paid. I'm on minimum wage, but I do get really good tips. But the fact that it's going to be going up by almost £2, I'm so excited for, because I am really living out that broke artist stereotype right now, because my job just won't give me shifts. And fun fact, I actually had a second job lined up for this summer for them to just ghost me when I asked them for shifts. It was a bartending job, and I've never worked in bartending before, but I have a lot of hospitality experience, and they knew this when they hired me. And a couple of weeks ago, I ended up emailing the guy who hired me, and I said, hey, I'm home and I'm available for shifts. He didn't respond, so I ended up sending a follow-up email, and he responded saying, hey, we don't actually need you anymore. And like, I was on holiday with my friends at the time, and it was like just this pit in my stomach. I was like, why did you hire me then? You've just made my summer plans so much more difficult. And yeah, because my whole plan was that I was going to be working this summer to save up for my third year of university, my third and final year, which is another crazy thing that's happening in my life. I am an English literature student, not an art student, surprisingly. Well, I guess maybe not surprisingly, considering I literally hated the idea of doing anything artsy and creative for about 2 years, and that would quite hinder my university experience. But yeah, I was planning on working quite a lot because not a lot of my friends are actually at home this summer. so many of them are doing placements or traveling, or I don't even know what else. Like, some of my friends have just stayed in their university towns, which is like fair enough if you've got your job there, you know, but I feel very lonely, so I was planning on working a lot this summer and saving money, and now I can't do that. So instead, I've decided to put a lot of time and effort into my YouTube channel, as you can probably tell. And here's a fun little fact you guys might not know, but this isn't actually my first YouTube channel. Despite what you may think, I would say I'm pretty okay sitting in front of a camera, because I have a separate YouTube channel which I've had for about 2 years now, I'd say. And on that channel I do a lot of like books and reading and literature. I've done a ranking of the relationships in Friends, and that actually did really well. Well, 1,800 views. Nothing like crazy by YouTube standards, but really well for my channel at the time. But I've actually ended up deleting quite a few of the videos because they just weren't working for me. And I've kind of decided to go through a bit of a rebrand. And because I got essentially laid off from my second job, I decided why not just go ahead and try something that I've always wanted to do, which is video essays. Because I've always been someone who's really interested in overanalyzing and like watching films and trying to pick apart what the deeper meaning is and the themes and all of that. You know, I am an English student through and through. But I don't know if you guys know, but a movie was released recently. You may have heard of it. You probably have heard of it. Obsession. And I watched this movie and something about it just absolutely stuck in my brain like glue, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. And I kind of almost came up with my own theory about the author, director, editor Curry Barker and his intention with Obsession as a narrative plot. I essentially started doing some research, and it was really interesting what I found. And now I've got the full script written out for a whole video essay, which I'm hopefully going to film tomorrow. And kind of a short timeline, but that video is hopefully going to come out either on the same day as this video or maybe a day or two after. And I'm really curious how that's going to do, because I am by no means big on social media. My biggest platform is TikTok, and that is, I've got about 4,500 followers now, and majority of that was from about 2 years ago when I did a series reading the Percy Jackson books for the first time as an 18-year-old. I'm now 20, and that follower count hasn't changed very much in the past 2 years, but that's fine because social media for me is just fun. But now that I am jobless, apart from my one job which isn't giving me shifts, I've decided to put a lot of my time and effort into YouTube and content creation, because genuinely, what else do I have to do? Like, I'm currently doing some triathlon training, but that's about it, and that does not take up a whole day. And even though I know that I could just sit down and watch movies all day, or, you know, paint or do whatever, that doesn't really feel productive to me. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not one of those I have to be doing something all the time kind of people, but I do feel like I need some kind of purpose, especially if I'm home for the whole summer, which is like 3 months. Like, imagine sitting around doing nothing for 3 months. And I know that's technically COVID, we've all been through it, but I think because I did nothing during my COVID years, my current uni self is picking up the slack. I've also tried to be really creative about how I make some extra money this summer, because I am planning a really big, really fun trip with my friends after our university year has finished. 6 months after we finish our years, we're going to take a little bit of a break up until Christmas, and then in January of 2028 we're going to go on essentially a big road trip across a whole bunch of different countries. I'm talking South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Japan's probably going to be in there, maybe the US, but that might be a whole separate trip we do in only a couple of years, because that is a lot of money. But I have saved up for it. Don't worry, like, I'm not just going into this being like, oh, I'm going to go on a massive trip with absolutely no savings to my name. But I did want to have a little bit more of a cushion, so that if we do decide to do something fun and extra, like, we've added Japan into the list, because initially there was just going to be 2 of us going on this trip, but now there's 4 of us, and Japan was kind of added as an idea, and we all really liked it, so now we're going to go. So this summer so far, I've been doing a lot of Vinted Warrior selling. I have a load of books in my room because I've just been a massive reader my entire life, and last summer, oh no, was it Christmas? I think it was over Christmas, I kind of decided that a lot of these books weren't really doing it for me anymore. I either read them when I was quite young and I didn't really like them anymore, I'd never planned on rereading them, or I have been working since I was 15, so a lot of the time during my high school career, I would just buy books with my money because I had nothing else to spend my money on. And so I've just accumulated so many books, which I will never read or I haven't enjoyed. And it kind of made me feel a little bit annoyed because I only have so much space in my room and it's being taken up by all of these books. Whereas nowadays, as much as I enjoy reading, I prefer to go to the library or to use my Kindle or, you know, anything else, or even to read the books that I already have. So I don't really have a lot of space and I kind of want to use that space for some art supplies. So I've been selling some books on Vinted, and that has actually led to quite a good income. Nothing crazy, but you know, people out there are interested. And then I also have been doing some content for a brand that I work for. They're really cool. They're a little bit disorganized sometimes, but it's really, really cool to work for them. I do content and I write blog posts for them now. This is a new thing that I applied for like last month, and I got it in, and I was so surprised, and it's actually been so much fun. And this is such a turn of events, but it has made me consider journalism as a possible career path in the future, because guys, I have no clue what I want to do with my future. I'm going to get my degree and I'm going to essentially take a gap year to figure it out and hopefully do a bunch of art and fun YouTube content along the way. But yeah, I know that I definitely don't want a boring corporate job, but I know that I want a little bit of stability, a little bit of something. I want to climb the career ladder, you know, but do it on my own terms while having fun. I feel like we all say that, but we'll see what happens in the future. We'll see where life takes me. I am also hoping and praying that if my subsequent YouTube channels do somewhat good this summer, that I can hope for a possible monetization. And I'm not looking for anything massive, I'm just looking for like a little bit of AdSense, maybe to like share my love of art a little bit. But I'm kind of hoping that YouTube, because I enjoy doing it so much, will be an option for me to make money through in the future. Like don't get me wrong, that is not my primary interest at all. Just as someone who is kind of struggling with money at the moment, that is a hope that I have for the future, but nothing that I'm expecting, if that makes sense. At the moment, this is just for fun because I have nothing else to do with my time. I just realised that I went on a completely massive tangent on something I hadn't even planned about talking about, but that's alright, that's just me in a nutshell. I was originally talking about kind of introducing myself to you guys, so I think we'll just kind of get back to that in a somewhat unnatural, separate tangent. So I mentioned that I'm turning 21. Something that not a lot of people might know about me, just based on if you see me on social media, is that I sound very British, and I do have a British passport and citizenship and all that jazz, but I actually grew up in South Africa. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in the beginning of the video, but I can't actually remember if I did or not, so I'm just going to plop it in here. I moved to the UK when I was 14 years old, and that was right at the beginning of 2020, and we know what happened in 2020. So fun fact, I actually went to school for, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks, and then there was no more school for about 5 months. And at the time, this was such a blessing because when we first moved here, we couldn't get me into any schools, so we kind of just picked one that I could use as like a gateway. Like, we'll put her in that school and then try and find a different one while we can. And oh my goodness, that school was so small. There were 16 people in my year, in my grade, 16 people, and I think 6 of those were girls. I was the 7th girl, and I immediately just didn't click with any of them. We didn't share a lot of the same ideals and values, if that makes sense. I don't want to say anything that's gonna be a little bit controversial, but it just wasn't the school for me. So when we didn't go to school anymore, I don't know if I can probably say lockdown. When we went into lockdown, it was just such a blessing. Like, I was so happy because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have to worry about going back to the school. And instead of doing any schoolwork for these 5 months, I watched YouTube and I read books, and I just lived my best life, to be honest. And looking back, I'm sure we're all thinking the same thing. But looking back, I look at all the time that I had, and I was making art. I was like having fun. I was having a great time. I kind of wish I could go back and tell myself, like, hey girl, just start posting. Like, no, you don't know anyone. You've just moved to a new country. You don't know anyone. Just start posting, and like nothing bad is gonna happen. But anyway, I actually did end up start posting when I think I was 18 when I started my TikTok. I think I started my TikTok the day after I turned 18, because 3 days before I got my braces on, which is a crazy bit of a law drop. I, for my entire life, wasn't really happy with my teeth. Nothing was super crazy about it, but you know, I never thought it would be bad enough to get braces. And then I went to an orthodontist after being on the wait list for like 2 years, and they gave me the go-ahead to get braces. And I had braces for, gosh, when did I get them off? I had them on for about 1.5 years. So that was for the latter end of my final year in school and the first year of university, which is so crazy. I genuinely don't know how I survived having braces in university, especially first year. Guys, my first year in university was low-key kind of rough. Like, don't worry, we're in a much better place now, but first year was definitely an experience. But anyway, yeah, so I moved here from South Africa, and I'm a very nerdy person. You might have had a touch on that based on what I've mentioned so far, but I am such a fangirl. I love reading, I love movies, I don't know, so many things. I love gaming. That's something that not a lot of people know about me either, because I don't really talk about it because it's a very personal hobby for me, but I was obsessed with it when I was younger. Like, I had my 3DS from the age of, maybe I was like 9 or 10, and that 3DS carried me up until a couple of months ago when I invested in my very first Switch, and I love my Switch. Oh my goodness, I would play on that thing 24/7 if I could. And I bought it for myself as a reward for finishing a round of exams, because I knew that if I bought them during exams, like around Christmas time, I would not be studying, I would not be writing my essays. So I ended up buying it in, I think, like also February, around about the same time that I started this sketchbook. And I'm sure I'll do a sketchbook tour at some time in the future, but you'll notice that one of my first spreads is a Zelda spread, because my first game was Breath of the Wild, because I played Ocarina of Time on my DS and I was obsessed with it. So the next natural upgrade was Breath of the Wild, and I did buy this secondhand, so that is why I was so happy with it, because I actually ended up getting the I think it was the Tears of the Kingdom version of the Switch one, and it was so much cheaper because I got it secondhand, and I love that thing so much. I think it's so gorgeous, and as much as I would love Switch 2, I'm probably gonna have to wait a couple of years to do the same thing and wait for like a fun exclusive version to come out and then to buy it secondhand. But for now, because I'm so backlogged on these Switch 1 games, I'm actually okay, because I've just been kind of having fun on my Switch. My current favourite games, or the ones that I've played at least, is Breath of the Wild. I am nowhere near finished. I've got at least 50 hours logged in that so far, which isn't a lot because I'm quite a busy person, unfortunately. I don't know, fortunately and unfortunately. I feel like there's no real, distinct factor, but I'm quite busy, so I've only gotten like a certain point in the game. You can't really say like what percent of it you've done, because to me Breath of the Wild doesn't really feel like your typical like a story game where you can say, oh, I'm like 20% done, I'm half the way through. So I'm just kind of vibing. I'm having fun with the slower, cozy vibes. I kind of pick it up whenever I need, a little bit of a more chill time. It's not necessarily a game that I've been playing constantly, but it's like I leave it for a bit, I come back to it, I leave it for a bit, which I think is actually perfect. And then I've also been playing Dave the Diver, and oh my gosh, this game is so much fun. You are essentially a diver during the day and a sushi, like you work in a sushi restaurant at night. And as someone who loves like games like Papa's Pizzeria or like Cooking Fever and all that, Cooking Mama on the DS, I love it. It's so much fun. And you've got the little side quest storyline with the merfolk, and I don't really know if that's a spoiler or not, but it's not, because it's in the trailer of the game. But it's really fun. I love all the different chapters. I love how you can explore deeper and deeper in the sea. I love all the sharks. I'm a big shark fan. It's one of my, I wouldn't say special interest, because like I don't know too much about them, but I love tiger sharks and hammerheads, and those are my two favourites. And I actually ended up doing another spread in my sketchbook, which was inspired by Dave the Diver, and specifically the sharks in Dave the Diver. And then I've also been playing Cult of the Lamb, which I got very recently. I only got it about 2 weeks ago, and I got it on sale. Oh my goodness, that is probably some of the best money I've spent recently, because that game is so much fun. It's nothing too crazy or intense, but it's it's a very good game to go back to if you want something quite formulaic. I just love it. I think it's so fun. I love naming all the little characters after people I know, or book characters, or like, I don't know, the characters from other games. And then I also have a PS4 at home. So I've got the Switch, which I bring with me to uni. And then at home I have our very ancient PS4. I think we got it when it first came out, maybe like a couple months after, and it's actually the South African version. We got it in South Africa when we still lived there. And oh, I love the PS4 so much. It's not technically my PS4, but like no one else uses it, so it is pretty much my PS4. And the very first game that I played on it was The Last of Us, and oh my gosh, what a amazing game. Like genuinely, it probably ignited my love of gaming last summer, because I feel like I needed a break from reading after finishing my uni course, my first year uni course. I was like, I need a break, but I need something that like will keep me away from my phone. So I picked up The Last of Us, and I have replayed it 2 times now, and I sense a third on its way. I'm not even lying. I also really enjoyed the second one. I know that there's a lot of polarizing opinions about it, but I loved it. I thought it was amazing gameplay. I actually really like Abby, guys. I know there's a lot of controversy about that, but I really like her character as someone who has studied character. Anyway, now that we've done a complete tangent into my video game obsession, I thought I would talk a little bit about my ideas for this sketchbook and for this channel. And I don't actually think we have loads of time, but I'm just gonna kind of yap for a bit and we're gonna talk about it. So I obviously said that I plan on keeping this channel probably throughout most of my life, to be honest. I think it's so fun being able to share my love of art, and I had genuinely so much fun both doing this spread and filming it, and even the editing process. Like, as someone who's been making YouTube videos for the last 2 years, the editing process can be quite rough sometimes. This was just so much fun. Like, I've been having the time of my life with this channel so far, and I've been posting some shorts, and I've just been having so much fun, and it's been so fulfilling. So my goal, mostly for the summer, I'm going to kind of think about what I want to do when university comes back around in a little bit. For the summer, we're just going to have fun and see what happens. So here is the final spread. I am absolutely obsessed with the lemons. They probably took me the shortest amount of time out of everything, but I just love the colours, and I feel like I'm finally learning how to use my markers and find my style. And yeah, I'm just really happy with how this turned out. And with that, we are all done with this sketchbook spread. I can't even tell you how much that this sketchbook has meant to me in the past couple of months. It has been the sketchbook to get me back into doing art and back into creating, and I only have a few more pages left, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think it looks really cute, really summery. I really like the lemons. It was probably one of the more simple parts of this spread, but I think they're really cute. And I really like the little quote. On the previous 2 pages, I'd actually used other quotes from the poem, and I wanted to make sure that I remembered which poem it was, so I wrote the poem name right here, which is really cute. If you like the video, please make sure to leave it a like, so I know that this is the kind of stuff that is pretty cool and awesome and fun and amazing. And if you like my vibe and you don't want me to disappear into the void that is the internet, why don't you consider dropping a little subscribe? I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of summer, and I would be eternally grateful if you help me out on that one. I hope that if you live in the UK, by the time this video comes out, it'll be a lot cooler. I hope that you survive the heat wave, and I hope you have a great day, and remember to go drink some water that's not paint water. For that, I will see you on the next one. Bye!